The strategic partnership between the European Union and the United States is of vital importance. It's a partnership built on common interests, for example, trade, security and culture. It's also a partnership built on shared values, democracy, liberty and progress. But as with all friendships, sometimes there are disagreements and different points of view. This week here in the Parliament, MEPs have been debating and voting on a resolution on the transatlantic alliance ahead of the EU-US summit later this month. America's return to a more multilateral foreign policy under President Obama has been welcomed by EU leaders. And Vice President Joe Biden received a warm welcome from MEPs when he addressed the European Parliament earlier this year. But the result of the recent congressional election, in which Republicans made significant gains, has been widely seen as a rejection of Obama's style and agenda. Elmar Brok is the chairman of the Parliament's Delegation for Relations with the United States. EPP TV asked him if we should expect a change in the way America approaches its relations with Europe.
I do not think so, because if President Obama has less time for legislation and less successor, he will have more time for foreign policy. And that might be also an advantage, as we have seen very often if a president lost a majority in Congress in midterm elections.
America and Europe find common ground on most issues, but recently there have been differences of opinion over policy related to anti-terrorism measures. Back in February, for example, the Parliament rejected an interim agreement that would have allowed US officials investigating the financing of terrorism to access the private banking details of EU citizens. But according to Mr. Brok, this should not be taken as symbolic of how MEPs see the transatlantic partnership.
I think the European Parliament believes that it's a very important one. If you say that economic and with economic political power is going to Asia, and the new kind is like India and China, but also to Brazil, and the classical countries in Europe, United States are weakened in the long run, it means more and more that the Americans and Europeans, on the basis of common values and democracy, have to cooperate much more in order to keep our interest in this global order.
At the forthcoming EU-US summit, there will also be a meeting of the Transatlantic Economic Council. This body was set up 3 years ago to enhance economic cooperation and boost trade between the world's two biggest economies. With Europe and America both still struggling to emerge from recession, the Transatlantic Economic Council has a crucial role, according to Yanis Kasselidis, Vice Chair of the EPP Group with responsibility for foreign policy.
The international economic crisis, the problems that do exist today with the monetary order, the threats about measures and countermeasures, protectionism, the fact that China is refusing to appreciate to a substantial way the yuan, etc., etc. These are all problems that necessitate a common understanding and cooperation with the two natural developed economies of the European Union and of the United States.
One thing the European Union and the United States don't see eye to eye on is capital punishment. The EPP Group has led efforts both in the Parliament and in Member States to maintain a strong consensus against the death penalty. But can the EU have any influence on America when it comes to discussing this issue, especially when 2/3 of Americans still support capital punishment?
I think we must continue on this dialogue, and because we see that results are coming up. New Mexico state has put a moratorium on death penalty. Is something. Not all the states in the United States have the death penalty, so I think it is this way, through the local parliaments of the states of the United States, that we'll achieve the results.
But it's important not to overplay the differences between Europe and America. The EPP Group is 100% committed to a transatlantic alliance based on a shared commitment and a shared vision. And our group took the lead in crafting the joint resolution that was approved by MEPs this week. For more information about our group's activities, please visit our website, eppgroup.eu. Thanks for watching, and see you again soon.